Welcome back to another episode of Living LFTD with Brenton Ross. I got my good buddy here today, Ryan Tripp.
What's going on?
Buddy, I'm so glad this worked out.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Ryan's one of my best friends, and you're just such a good dude through and through. So I'm excited for this conversation. I just was even saying as Eric was setting up that I don't even have to have as many notes as I normally do, because you and I could have 2 notes in here and we could talk for hours.
Go for 5 hours.
We won't do that to these people, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. All the feedback that I'm getting, I really appreciate it. These conversations are a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy even the people that I know well, the conversations that we're having, I'm getting to learn more about those people. So it's fun for me. And the really good feedback that I'm getting is from the people that are saying that something in the conversation that we've had, they can relate to. And then once they feel like they can relate to my guest or it's even something I said, they listen to them, what that person did that helped them progress along their journey or made an impact in their life. And then in some way they can kind of emulate that and it helps them. And that's the ripple effect that we're after. So as I said from the very first episode, we're never going to put this in a box. We're just going to have fun with it. And hopefully some people take something beneficial away from it along the way.
Can I add one thing there?
Add something.
It's funny you say that because in 2017, going into 2018, you're running the athlete search. You had those videos that you were doing. Mm-hmm. And I was watching them, doing my cardio at the gym. And I was like, who is this guy? I want to meet this guy. Like, I want to get into his world. Mm-hmm. And the athlete search came about, I found out about it, I think I saw an ad. So I was like, I'm going to apply for this. And I wrote everything down. And I think I've told you this before, like in great depth, probably on one of our 5-hour rants. But I like pulled up the application and I filled out all the questions and I copy and pasted it into notes on my phone and I didn't submit it.
Okay.
And so like I waited a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was like afraid to do it. I was like, no, well, like there's no way I'm going to get
Can
this.
you look back right now and figure out what that was?
Why I didn't?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably, I mean, Maddie and I talk about this all the time because, it's all sorts of different aspects across like business, life in general, everything. But just like indecisiveness, would be timid, afraid to make the wrong decision. And then finally one day I was like, no, I'm just going to do this. I was definitely worried about switching my Instagram from like a fabrication page to a fitness page.
Okay.
And then seeing those videos, like what you were doing, it like helped motivate me.
Yeah.
And then I think we just had like some casual conversation. Like I ordered some of your supplements.
Yeah. And then that showed up.
On some Instagram stuff. Yeah. Then that showed up. I put it on the flash drive.
Anybody that's been watching this show, this lifted metal plaque that's been back here, it was laser etched and metal cut. It is, man, that's one of my most prized possessions. One, because it's cool, but most importantly, because you made it. You could have carved a smiley face in there. I think I still would like it just as much. Maybe not quite as much, but close. But I can tell part of that story and you chime in where you want. This giant wooden box shows up and it weighs hundreds of pounds. And
because the shipping on it was like almost a couple $100.
I believe it.
I shipped it with insurance, but it was like, it's not as heavy as you think. It was like 106 or like 116 pounds or something like that, like with the crate. The crate was legit. It was 5/8 OSB with 2x4s framed, and I put 20 screws on each side.
I did keep that.
Yeah.
It was in that warehouse in the back. I had it back there for a long time. I did keep that.
Spray painted my Tripp Fab logo on it.
I remember that. It was black spray paint.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
Yeah, so it's like the stencils you have, like the stay lifted, get lifted thinking. Right. So I cut those out. I'd spray paint it because that's what all the builders were doing on their crates.
Gotcha.
So I was like, I'll ship it with the logo on it.
Remember that showed up. And then you did a really cool thing. You put that paper on the outside and you're like, do not open until you read this. And then you had that flash drive in there too. Yeah. We were reading that and then opening that up. And I waited. I listened to your instructions. I remember after I read it and then opened up the flash drive, then did I FaceTime you when I opened that? I videoed it. I put it on my story and you saw it. Yeah. And then we talked shortly right after that. Dude, I was in tears straight up. I'll admit that.
I appreciate it, man.
I cried a little bit.
It was fun.
It just meant so much to me that someone actually gave a shit about what I was doing. Like the fact that someone that I'd never met, putting those videos out, especially during a difficult season of my life after my father had passed. And I was trying really hard to push through my pain and help other people do the same. And so the fact that someone as talented as you, that it meant something to you and meant enough to you that you wanted to be a part of what I was doing, and that you took the time and the expense and all the above to make that, it just humbled me so much, and it meant so much to me. Still does. That's why it's there. I would have nothing else.
Now you got on a podcast set.
That's right. I think we should, you probably already thought this. We got to paint this black.
Paint the wall black?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking.
I want to paint this black and that. I think that would look great.
I did my gym in tricorn, matte black.
Ooh.
It's a cool color, but like that might be a little bit dark behind it, but like a gray or something.
It might help though from a lighting perspective. We'll consult Eric on that. We'll do a couple paint
talking about the lights in it and
bring
stuff.
Bring you in here and let you decide. You know what? Something just happened again that's really cool. This has happened several times. I have notes of kind of like where I want the conversation to go or hope it goes. And the way you just interject and you say, can I add something? Obviously, absolutely. That's why you're here. But you just perfectly introed into a segment into what I want to talk about today. So a little bit about what you said about the fear of submitting that application. You and Maddie talking about that. I want to talk about you and Maddie's journey. I want to talk about all that kind of stuff. So Ryan is an entrepreneur. He owns a fitness coaching business, and he works alongside his fiance, Maddie. Both of you have been on an awesome journey, and I've had the privilege of watching a lot of it. And dude, it's been just that, a privilege to watch. And I want to get more into that as we get a little farther along, but we'll circle back to that. Ryan's from Montana, and I want to ask you, you've spent a lot of time here over the past 6-7 years, even lived here for a short stint. Coming here now, you've been here for a few days. Do you notice much of a cultural difference between here and Montana?
Certain aspects, yes.
What do you see?
Definitely. In Missoula, it's getting to be, I don't want to say more like here, but it's becoming different than like the Missoula I grew up into. Like, I mean, I remember having like more, for instance, I'll give you an example. So it's actually tangible. Like going to the grocery store, people would smile at you, people would talk. When I'm here, it's like people have their head down. They don't want to make eye contact.
Or they have AirPods in.
It's very apparent.
Yeah.
Driving obviously I feel comfortable driving here. It's definitely different. It's not, there's not bad drivers in Montana.
The amount of times we've been in the car together where you'd say, if someone did that in Montana, somebody would be getting out of their truck right now.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And, and I mean, that's changed obviously as I've gotten older and continued to live or move back to Montana. But, like I was at Walmart last night and it was just, I don't know, it was interesting. I almost felt like out of place. A little bit, 10, 15.
Where were you? The one on Dobson?
Somewhere around there. Like, I think I was like maybe a street or two
and
north.
What time were you there?
10:30 p.m.
Yeah, that's about prime time.
Yeah. So, but like jokes aside though, it is interesting. Like when you walk into a place and I mean, like there's obviously a lot of pressing stuff going on, like people feel a certain way, like one way or the other, like the election just happened.
Yeah.
That's pretty fresh. There's a lot of people.
Well, you live in Missoula, so has a liberal aspect to it because of the college and everything. Did it feel pretty split?
I mean, if I'm being honest, like I don't go out a lot. Gym's at our house. We train from home. I eat most of my food from home.
Yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, cook at home. Maddie and I have dogs. Like we go to my parents all the time to let them run in their yard because we don't really have a yard at our house. It's like as wide as this table, maybe a little skinnier.
A little runner.
Yeah, tiny, and a little dog fence that they can jump over so it doesn't do anything. So I got to get on building a fence. That's a whole separate deal. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some big differences between here and there, and Montana is ever changing as well. There's a lot of people moving there right now.
I've heard a lot about that.
A ton. Yeah, I think it's like
that. I think a lot of the locals aren't super stoked about that.
Yeah. I won't credit it all to Yellowstone, but I mean that and the pandemic was like and so like one of the biggest things in Missoula is like the cost of living is getting
your
very
inflation
high.
Has been pretty intense.
I've seen
pretty
things
close to here.
And I don't know what like the source is. I don't know the credibility. I've seen multiple things and a lot of it could be fabricated, like saying that it is the most expensive place to live in the United States. It's got one of like, it's not the highest average price for a house, but like relative to income, relative to the average income, I believe it is. Yeah. And like, I don't have the news. I don't have TV service. I have Netflix because I like to watch a show with Maddie in the evening, eat some popcorn, some chocolate chips before I go to bed. Yeah, that's my snack.
Chocolate chips.
100-calorie bags of popcorn and a serving of chocolate chips, like, does me right. But like, I don't watch the news. Like, if the world's going to end, someone will let me know. Like, I don't engage with that. I used to, rewinding back like in 2014, 15, 16, like as I was kind of, coming out of high school, finishing up with welding school, becoming an adult, you start kind of like getting into these like politics. People are talking about stuff. You're trying to like adult, and I remember following, cause like I'm definitely one way, like I'll say it, I am conservative, but like I'm not loud about it. I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion, which I think is huge. And I think that's like a big issue, politics aside, just in general, if people don't agree on something. I mean, there's like, I remember going to some of my brother's football games, and if you were an opposing fan in a place like, I think it was like Newark or something, like you want to be careful where you're at in the stadium if you're alone. Like, I mean, yeah. And so like, I mean, taking that to the extreme, like, me talking about being at Walmart or being in certain places or feeling out of place. Like, I don't like that feeling of feeling like I'm out of place or I don't belong, or especially like to the other extreme when your safety is like in question or you're just not aware.
Yeah.
If my mom came down here, she's like, wants to put her head between her legs when she's on the 101. People are cutting you off. You have to speed up. You're driving 10 over the speed limit.
She's still strapped though.
Yeah.
Your mom's always carrying.
Yeah.
Your mom's always packing.
All the time. She hikes alone, and like she'll go, like you and I talked about this when I brought you up to Montana when we're out at the shop, and you're like, it's kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, you said something along the lines of like, it's kind of scary out here. And I'm like, I think
I said it was really quiet because I liked that part of it.
Yeah, you're like, it's quiet out here.
I'm used to when I grew up in Missouri when I was 100 acres in the middle of nowhere. You had a pole light outside of near where the trucks were parked, and it was a little bit of snow on the ground. I still remember it. And there was a pole light on our property, and it has a very similar look and feel. That snow, the darkness all around, and it brought me back to that. So it was actually, I met it in a positive way because it was a nostalgic like little flashback for me that I really appreciated and missed to an extent. While I was there, I will say, man, meeting everyone you introduced me to, honestly, very, very good people. But your parents, I love your parents.
Yeah, they're good.
Your dad and I stood there in his shop. His dad owns a trucking business there. And I remember standing there talking to him. It's probably about 45 minutes to an hour. You just were doing something, of course.
Getting the snow bike set.
Fiddling with something.
You remember that day?
Yeah.
The day we
were going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about that to my own demise. The amount of times I stalled that
clutch out.
Because it was the clutch, how fast you had to pop that clutch on a regular dirt bike. That's a big no-no.
Oh yeah, you flipped
out
right
there, out there, you had to let that, and I wouldn't do it because I was just so tentative on it, and it kept stalling, and then I just fall over sideways. I did that so many times.
I remember when you posted on your Instagram, people thought it was me, and they're like, they can't even ride the bike, and you're like, that's me.
That's definitely me. You were a pro on that thing, and I still remember I felt like Dumb and Dumber riding on the back of that with you just holding on, just putting my arms around your waist.
I gotta be honest, we're probably one of the few people, I'm one of the few people from Montana that had a 220-pound jacked guy on the back of a single person timber sled,
226-2 with 5'7", 130 in your arms, baby.
That was funny.
I remember we passed these guys coming by. I was like, damn it. They're just looking at us like,
you got your helmet and goggles on. Never see you again.
That's true. Fair. It's fair. But
it was a good day though.
I remember that conversation with your father. I remember the way he spoke about you, and that was special. Because I knew he wasn't just like trying to say nice things about you or build you. I already knew all those things about you. He was just like authentically telling me how he felt about you and how proud he was of you. And I'll never forget that because I just was standing there thinking and missing my dad. My dad had passed. How much that would mean to me. I remember he even had hid some money in your truck when we were there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I still remember that. He just wanted to do something special for you. It was
Christmas
cool.
or something. He's like,
that was cool.
Take this.
Yeah. And then your mom, like your mom is just such a sweetheart, but also just like she has strength to her, like she's a very strong woman. And I can just see, between the two of them, how what a blessing to have them as parents. It's really cool. And I'm very thankful that I got to meet them.
Yeah, it was fun.
But yeah, that was a good trip. I remember, we drove through town a little bit, going to your typical spots. Like you said earlier, there's only 2 places you really grabbed food was Chipotle. And then I remembered when you talked about earlier, what was it called again?
5 on Black.
That's right. Yeah. I remember where it was at.
It's like the 2 healthy-ish spots you can get.
And then we went to your gym. And then before you had yours, you didn't have yours yet. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was lifting some dumbbells, whatever the number was, but some guy came up to me and he was
130s,
whatever.
It's the heaviest dumbbell there.
He was like, I don't think anybody's picked those up since I've been a member. He got the dust off of them or something. So yeah, it was interesting. A lot of people sat and watched our workout that day. They kind of just sat there and watched it. You could just feel all that. Yeah. I did feel out of place in that, even though I did feel like I did blend in pretty good. As far as like my look I had my full beard going. Yeah. I wasn't standing. That's just how I am. Like, I just want to, like when you said, I think everybody no one likes to be in a place where they feel like they're a misfit or whatever. Some of that is, to be straight up, some of that I've gotten good at to compensate for insecurities. I want to blend in so that way you don't have to deal with standing out. But then there's also like the good side of it. I just genuinely want to fit in with the people that I'm with. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to put on a show or whatever. Like, I know some people, it's funny, a lot of people that initially meet me, they think I'm going to be that way. I think it's call it by the way I look or whatever. And then when I'm kind to them, it catches them off guard. Yeah. It happens to me, especially with a lot of older people. Like if I go hold a door for somebody and then
get that all the time,
kind of look at me, I know you do it. And then I think the tattoos play up on it for me. But then when I'm like, go out of my way to be really kind, it like really takes them off guard. Like, oh, this guy is actually nice. So going back to that trip while I was there, like I said, everybody that I met were really great people. I remember we went to that dinner. There was probably 10 or 12 people there that night. I met your uncle. Good on you.
Yeah, good on you.
Mikey, right?
Yeah, Mikey.
Great guy. And some of your friends, Lucas, and I always had a great laugh together. I remember Casey, really nice guy. Yeah, just all good people.
Casey was down here.
All good people. I want to talk about how genuine you are. And I have the definition here by Oxford. It says, truly what something is said to be, authentic. And that's you, dude. Like,
appreciate it, man.
That was an amazing gesture when you made that and sent that to me. But really what was so cool about it is it was just a reflection of who you are, that you cared enough to put the time. It wasn't like you're going to try to put on some facade to have me think that you were something that you weren't. From the day I met you, you've always just been genuinely you. And I feel like, sadly, that's rare today. And I do want to talk about that some. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that that's become a rarity?
People being genuine or trying to
people
put on a face.
Not being authentic. Like it said here, what something is said to be authentic. I think, I don't want to answer for you. You go. I asked you.
Yeah. Definitely hard for me to answer for other people. I can say from my own experience.
Yeah, of course, they're just generalizations.
For me, so and I won't go into the full details, but TLDR of me segueing into fitness, this is my 6th business, which one of which we had together. Prior to doing something on my own, when I was involved in the trucking business with my dad, just like any late teenager, high school kid, early 20-year-old, I liked to party, liked to have fun. I was always in the gym. I started lifting after high school. When I got into that business, I finally had enough money to go out to dinner and have a beer or two with my friends. And, this is nothing ill against them. This is speaking to me not really being genuine. They are my friends. They were my friends. They still are my friends. But the things that I was doing were not genuine. I was trying to entertain. I was trying to feel accepted. I was trying to fit in, not the way that you were talking about, but I was reading a lot about just this last couple of years, trying to figure out and point and figure out why I used to do some of those things. And I have ADHD, so masking, trying to be how everyone else is in a certain situation with one group of friends, and then you be with other people and you're a different way. And you're talking about not being genuine, and then I've always had this internal fear of if if all my friends met each other and they saw me, I'm like, who am I supposed to be? Do I talk to them all in the corner privately? Like, what's going to happen at my wedding?
My name is Jacob McLaughlin, and I'm the founder of New to Medical Device Sales. Medical device sales is the selling of medical equipment to hospitals, surgeons. They're actually in the surgeries, and the average rep's going to make around $177,000. And what we've been able to do is help people break in about 8 weeks at around $100,000 starting out in the industry. It usually is 5 to 7 interviews, 6 to 12 weeks long in the interview process, and they go up against thousands of people. But that's because you are going to be working with some of the smartest human beings, such as surgeons. You're going to make over 6 figures. You get your car paid for, all your gas paid for, and all your travel paid for. We've been able to help over 2,000 people do this in the last 2 years. Not only do we help people break in to make a difference and change other people's lives, they also get to change their lives. If you're interested in helping people and you're interested in financially becoming free, we can definitely help you. And I think you should check out New to Medical Device Sales, our podcast, while you can also click the link where you guys can learn more about what we do at New to Medical Device Sales. I absolutely love Brenton. I thank him so much for what he's doing for all of you. And I hope you guys keep enjoying the episode.
So what you're admitting right now is that you haven't always, like there were seasons, I think you were like this as a child, but there's a season where you weren't this way.
Yeah. Okay. And, you know, it took some unpacking. The wake up call for me that I'll get into in a minute that kind of sent me into the, you know, realm of fitness and wanted to help people and like authentically be me and really rip the, you know, mask off and just do me was like I was drinking and it started to become excessive. I was always going out. I had fear of missing out. You know, I always wanted to be at dinner. I wanted to make sure I was invited, so much to the point where I was the one saying, hey, let's go here, let's go here. I was kind of like,
if you're coordinating, you can't get left out, right?
Yeah. And so and I didn't really like what I was doing. I didn't like how I felt. I felt, you know, like I had big shoes to fill. My brother playing professional football.
Makes sense.
And, you know, him and I have a great relationship. That's always been the case. And I never had any pressure from my parents. But, you know, sometimes there was comments that get made to me, you know, like in the gym of like people that knew my brother because he's got a great reputation. People knew him. He, you know, grew up in a small town, played at the local college, got drafted to the NFL. And I'd get comments made to me. And I think some of it was out of, you and I've chatted, was kind of like anger. And so for a while, I just kind of went down this path of like self-destruction, drinking all the time, partying all the time. I was trying to just like numb the fact that I was like, I'm not doing what I want to do. I watched my brother like actually build this path from early grade school and went and fulfilled his dream of playing. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I have all these people saying, you know, I've got big shoes to fill. I wanted to say, you know, turn and say F you to him.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like the feeling. And so I was like, this is who I am. Like, I'm a Montana kid. I wear cowboy boots. I get drunk all the time. And this is, you know, not me trying to shame anyone that likes alcohol or drinks alcohol or goes out to dinner. Not at all what I'm saying. But the wake up call for me was when, you know, my dad wound up in the hospital due to lifestyle.
I remember.
With acute pancreatitis. And it scared the living shit out of me. Excuse the language. But it was like an awakening in me. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to do what I want to do, regardless of what these other people say or think. And it's funny, if you zoom out, like there's this video, learned from it, or I learned of the concept from, I can't remember who it was like Hermosi or one of those guys. And it's like literally zoomed into a town, like a picture of a house, and it zooms out. And then you can see like the whole town. And then it zooms out more and you can see like the whole state. And it zooms out more, you can see the whole US. It zooms out more, you can see the earth. And then it zooms out, you can see all the planets, and it just keeps going and going and going. That for me was kind of like the thought of, okay, like I used to really care about what people thought, like my image, my whatever. I always wanted to be somewhere. I wanted to make sure people weren't talking behind my back. Like I wanted to agree with people. And if they didn't agree with me, I wanted to like side with most of the people at the table and, you know, fight them on it. Like
being a pleaser, right.
Yeah. And like I always wanted to people please. And when I saw my dad in the hospital, I was like, man, this is me 27 years from now. Like he had me and he's 27. So I was like, this is me as a 54 or 56-year-old man or however old he was when that happened. It was in 2018, March 25th, 2018. I remember it because it's on his wallet that I bought him. It says proud of you on there. And
so cool.
You know, I like little things like that because that is me being genuine.
Yeah.
I got him that after the fact.
Yeah.
And I was proud of him. And he's came a long way since then. And that's always someone that I've looked up to, but seeing who he was and like what he had gone through and what got him to that point, like scared the living shit out of me. And I was like, I honestly thought it was a result of not being authentically who he was. And he's used something else to like mask or cover up. And so for me, I was like, if people want to tease me for posting about fitness, that's what it's going to be. You know, it's not common in Missoula.
Right.
People thought it was weird. I was filming stuff in a public gym.
Yeah.
They're leaving comments. People are talking behind my back.
Yeah.
And
I dealt with it too.
And, you know, when I saw your Instagram, I was like, you're posting those videos. Like that was a huge segue of inspiration for me to be like, this guy can do it. He lives in Arizona. That seems like, you know, good like fitness area. There's a lot of stuff going on. Saw the people at Independence Gym, you know, stuff like that. I thought it was like kind of cool.
So that's where that was at that phase at Independence. So before that was when I would have been up at Gold's, actually down the street from here, but it turned to EOS. And I was getting made fun of a lot because, you know, who is this guy? Who's this kid? He's nothing special. I even remember I was giving away free training programs just to help people, I swear. And this guy that worked out at the same gym as me somehow found my page and saw that I was helping people and even attacked me and said, this guy shouldn't even be helping people. He has so little to offer. He's nothing special. I see him in the gym. I was just like, man, not only am I getting made fun of all the time, even when I'm trying to help people, I'm getting made fun of too.
Yeah, and so I just was like, you know, I need to change my trajectory because like I saw my trajectory like that day in the hospital. Yeah. And, you know, it was just like that awakening moment. You know, I talk with clients on, for lack of a better term, we'll call them sales calls, a discovery call. When someone inquires about coaching, they think that, you know, I frame the call for them because a lot of people, you know, when they reach out for fitness, sometimes they take a few months, like they'll kind of like watch some of your stuff. They'll like want to ask about coaching. They kind of ghost you. And eventually, you know, it comes to a point where I'm on a call with them or Maddie's on a call with them for a bit of time. I had someone that I hired in our sales department taking calls because I was busy with clients, but I do like taking the calls myself. And so I'll ask people like, you know, why are you here? Straight up. And I will tell them how the call is going to go because a lot of people are just like, you know, what's the price? And I'm like, there's a million different things I could say right now, but like, honestly, like if you're going to decide on price, like this program's not for you. Like we are expensive and I'm fully aware of that, but like we're going to help you through a transformation. I'm not going to give you a training program and a meal plan and tell you to not talk to me. Like we need to work through the fundamental things of changing your identity. Like I can tell you, do these 3 habits or do these 6 things. And if you did do them and white knuckled it through it, like not to trash on 75 hard, but that's what it is. People will, I've done it 3 times because I like the challenge, but people will like try and white knuckle their way through a fitness journey until the breaking point. And they don't actually change like in here, like their identity. Like they do it for a set amount of time and they stop. There's an end date. And I was so sick of that shit for myself because it's what I was doing. Yeah. I kept trying to white knuckle it and I didn't want to learn. I wasn't, somebody was talking about at Vince's event yesterday about openness and having, getting rid of fear and having courage to like actually follow through on that action. But openness is the first thing. Like if you're closed off, if you're not willing to learn from someone else. So like I saw you and I was like, I can learn from this guy. And I was just like, and part of it was like almost to a fault. Like I then trusted everyone. I realized how quickly that wasn't good.
I remember that. I think openness too, that you're talking about is also the relinquishing of our pride. So our pride gets in the way of a lot of the things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I coach clients all the way up to, I think my oldest client was 67. Yeah. I have one of my friends, one of my dad's ex-business partners that now drives for him. He's 63. He comes and works out with me every Saturday and he gets after it. Yeah. He's in great shape. He's strong. He's lean. He's fit. He's in a good mood. He takes care of himself. Truck driver. This isn't against truck drivers, but like,
no, he's winning.
He's an in-shape 63-year-old truck driver.
If he's happy,
and it's cool.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a good time. And he's 63. He's one of my best friends. And, you know, I still have friends over and stuff, but like, I definitely don't go too far out of my way to try and people please much anymore. Like I want to make sure I do things that fill my cup and be around people that want to be around me, that want to do things that not just I want to do, but like they want to do. Figuring out that there are people that actually do like some of the same things as me was cool. But, you know, to do that, it's not always going to be with all of the people that you thought you're going to be
Correct.
around every single day from now till the end of time. You know, there's seasons of life, and I was in a season of life of, you know, fear of missing out, always going out drinking.
Yeah.
And
Chris, what's the guy you asked me about him earlier? And I said,
Chris Williamson.
Yeah, he had, I think the episode you even referred to with Hormozy on it, he talks about how there's almost for every single person who decides to start being authentic and take a different path than they've been on, there's always going to be this season of loneliness where you don't really align with the people that you used to spend the majority of your time with. And now that you've taken this new path, you haven't been on it long enough to start meeting other people, and you haven't developed your skills in that new path enough to then even develop relationships. That
You go through that.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off there, but you go through that period of loneliness a little bit. And, you know, this is, I just want to be totally clear for anybody watching, like, because I do get questions from people. They're like, this is like, you know, like, I can't go out to dinner. I'm like, no, you totally can. I'm just saying, you know, like, people go out to eat and drink so frequently that they think preparing food for the week is weird. They think that it's obsessive. They think that that is disordered. It is absolutely not the case. If you rewind back 40, 50, 60, 100 years, like people aren't going out to restaurants every day of the week or DoorDash and shit.
That was the normal.
You know, they're not spending thousands of dollars a month getting unhealthy. They were eating food when they had food and it was at their house and it was getting cooked. Like, and things, dynamics were very different, you know, moms were at home. Like there's so much different stuff. But my point is like, I had to go through that period for myself and it doesn't mean that I was like trying to finger point by any means, like towards friends, family, or people that I was around. I just knew that like, that's not authentically me.
Is it okay if I even speak to that real quick?
Yeah,
because
100%.
I've watched you go through that. I know that you've had to go through some of that, even with some of the people that you know, and that's been hard for you.
Yeah, handful for sure.
I've watched you even, it's not, I wouldn't even call it people pleasing. I think maybe more so in the beginning, you went out of your way a little bit more to feel like you had to preface everything or make sure you weren't being misunderstood to try to mitigate how much of that you were having to face. And you still are having to face a lot of it. And I hated watching you go through that. But then as you kept progressing into that journey and started really adopting a lot of the things and implementing the things that you're talking about into your life, I saw that you felt less obligated to feeling like you had to acquiesce to the people that were saying those things to you. And it got to the point where it wasn't like you were calloused, like forget you, I don't care about you guys. It just got to the point where you believed so much in the journey that you had not only yourself, but also Maddie too, embarked on, that you just let go of the need to feel like you had to make sure you are explaining yourself or yourselves, both of you, to every single person that was going to critique or comment on it.
Yeah, like you're tiptoeing around, you know, like I didn't like that feeling.
But I also want people to know that some of that people pleasing comes from insecurity, but also it comes from a place of love, that you actually really do genuinely care so much about those friends and those people that you would never want them to think that you judge them or look down upon them or thought of them differently because they weren't on the same path as you. It didn't, you still love them the same. Always it's just that they couldn't understand why you were doing something different than them. And then they would come at you for it because they felt uncomfortable about the fact that you were willing to do something different. That they
and like my good friends, my close friends, like they understood.
Yeah.
You know, they might've been caught off guard for a little while. Friends. But then there are the people.
I think the real friend, even if they're caught off guard, like you just said, if they're a real friend, they're willing to sit in and talk to you and understand why you're doing what you're doing. And that way they can now not let this be a hindrance to our relationship. I just want to genuinely understand why you are doing what you're doing, and it doesn't change how I feel about you as a friend. That's a real friend.
Yep.
And then that's who you end up finding as you start to go down. More and more of those people, like the guys that were in that gym today.
Yeah.
My friend group today looks a lot different than it used to. And you
very much so. Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's not a bad thing. They're like, and some of my friends too, that I was with a lot at a time in my life. Like when I was confused, I was anxious, I was drinking all the time. I was taking things to fall asleep. I was taking things to wake me up. I was getting prescribed, you know, anxiety medication, sleeping pills. Doctor is like, we'll just give you more if you can't sleep. And I'm like, no, I have to drink before I go to bed. And I don't talk about that a lot. I've shared it multiple times in my story, but I have a big following. Most people don't know. And so I like to remind them, like, I would drink NyQuil all the time and melatonin. And sometimes I'd have like a shot of something like Crown Royal or whatever. And like a lot of my friends, actual friends, people that I'm still friends with, like they didn't know that about me because I was not going to talk about it. But I was an anxious wreck.
Why didn't you want to talk about it? Did you think it made you look weak, like you had a crutch? Why?
Yeah, I just...
or maybe even hypocritical that you were still having to do something that...
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, you know, it all comes back to seeing what my dad went through in 2018. I was like, it was like an immediate unplug, like disconnect. Like if everything was wired into one switch and I was like, unplugging this, like I'm done with that. I need to go in a completely different direction. It was a lot at once. And I'll be honest, I did remove myself from virtually every situation where going out, eating, drinking was an opportunity, to a point where I was just not getting invited to things. And that was on me. That's not on them.
Yeah.
No judgment to any of my family.
You were in a reset mode. You had to. You were miserable and you had to figure out how to get yourself into a place where you weren't feeling that way anymore.
Yeah. And, you know, like at the end of the day, I had to remind myself, I'm like, this is my life. Like, I need to do what's going to fill my cup. I can't keep living this fake life and at the cost of trashing my health. I mean, it was horrible. To illustrate the example, like I have some buddies that have never had heartburn before. And when I was drinking all the time and chewing Copenhagen all the time,
that'll do it,
and taking stuff all the time, I had heartburn all the time, and it sucked. And I'm taking Prevacid. My dad's got or had this prescription version of Prevacid.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'll be like, can I get some of those? Like, I got horrible heartburn. And one of my buddies,
probably.
And what'd you say?
I think it's called pantoprazole.
Okay.
I've been on medication for it since I was probably like 12 years old because my anxiety was so bad as a child.
But you know,
it just tore my stomach up. So I've always had to be on. Now I take over the counter and it's a little bit less damaging, but I still take it every day.
So to that note, like you take anybody that's never had heartburn before, and it's like they literally don't believe you. Like they have no clue what you're feeling, and then that person gets it one time. Like I have a couple of my friends, one in particular was like, "Oh my god, dude, I had heartburn for the first time, and it was horrible." Like, tell me about how shitty of a day he had, how awful he felt. It felt like something was burning like in his stomach and his chest, and I'm like, "Yeah, man." Like, so using that as an example to illustrate to the point, like the anxiety that I was having, the things that are like people, even if I would have told them, they probably would have just been like, and this is me projecting of what I thought they were going to think. Like, I didn't know who to talk to. I wasn't going to call my brother and be like, "Hey man, I got to tell you something. I'm drinking Crown at night. I'm drinking NyQuil. I'm doing this stuff. I'm an anxious wreck. I feel like I'm off track. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing in life." That was all in here and here.
Yeah.
Like by myself.
And it amplifies it like crazy too horrible. When you're keeping it to just yourself. Because now on top of the fact of the way you're already feeling, now you've got this almost secret that you have to hide from everybody, and it just makes you even more anxious.
Yeah. And so like when I did that unplug and reset, I was like, I need to get as far away from the things that I've been doing like for a while, get in the gym, focus, go a totally different route. And it was tough to stick to. I had a lot of times of like, I hope this works. Like,
do you ever miss the drinking? Sounds like maybe, and I'll answer your question. Go ahead first.
No, I'll preface on here too. Like, I haven't quit drinking cold turkey.
Right.
I have for periods of time. Like, I had a drink this weekend.
Yeah, but like to that extent, as more so what I mean.
Yeah, to me having
a few drinks is not drinking.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah, like when I was drinking, I was drinking.
Yes, right.
Like, I would drink before I went to the bar.
I'm 3 years. This month, 3 years this month, or right at the end of this month.
Zero alcohol?
0 in 3 years.
Maddie just crossed a year.
Wow. Yeah, but it's just, like I say, there was no point to a few drinks for me. A few was 12.
Well, and so
a lot was 20 plus.
Yeah.
So,
to add to that, the other thing that was going on while I was doing all this kind of on this path of self-destruction was, Maddie and I argued all the time, probably because of me and what I was doing, because I was an anxious wreck. I was drinking. I never felt good. I felt like I was hiding stuff. I would never lie to her, and I'll be straight up with her. That's something that her and I got out of the way, like in the first 6 months of dating, because there was some information being exchanged that she was telling me that seemed a little wishy-washy, and this is not to call her out, but I was very blunt. I was like, hey, I've been cheated on twice. I know you have too. I'm not that guy. And if you lie to me, like,
if you don't have trust in a relationship, you don't have anything.
I'm like, then we can't be together.
Exactly. You have nothing without trust.
And
I've been the same way with Taylor from the very, very, very beginning.
Yeah. And I didn't tell her that to scare her. I told her to illustrate. I'm like, no, I am an honest person. Precedent. Yes. I'm like, there might be things that I'm doing personally to my health that I'm not honest about. And that, I guess, in itself was a lie, but like, I will never be the type of person that's like telling you I'm going one place and do the other and be like, hope my girlfriend doesn't find out. Never been me. Never.
Break up
like,
over that.
Yeah. I don't like to think that I'm an anxious person, but if I do things like that, if I make decisions like that, like I've been around buddies, they're like, hey, don't tell my wife we're going down to, this bar or this club. Right. Going to a bachelor party, and I told her we weren't going to a strip club, like not to get too deep into it, but I've never been that way. I've been straight up, like when I've gone to bachelor parties, I'm like, hey, giving you a heads up, this is what we're doing. Yeah. This is our plan. Yeah. This is where we actually went.
My daddy came with all ones, man.
Yeah. And, for my 21st birthday in Vegas, that was it.
All right, God. Keep going. Whoa, keep going.
So, with that though, like we argued all the time, and immediately, within those first few months, I mean, she was so supportive, and you can talk on this a little bit too, because you're talking about the transformation that her and I have gone on, but we could kind of talk about her, I guess, whatever other questions you have. She supported me from day one and was like, I think this is great.
I've seen that.
She necessarily wasn't on the same path, but like she believed in what I was doing.
Yes, she did.
And I was like, I'm going to start this fitness business. So I started it on paper later that year, October 2018. So a little over 6 years ago. I thought I was doing big stuff. I drove to a lawyer's office, filed an LLC.
You were doing big stuff. And taking steps. And more than a lot of people will do.
For sure. Yeah. And it's $210 for the hour and a $70 filing fee, $280. I was like, okay, first business expense out of the gate. Like just paid a lawyer to, submit my documents. And then from there, I just started getting on YouTube, and I was like, how to make $10,000 a month with a fitness business. Cause I'm like, if I could make that, I'd
sure you got hit with a few ads after.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll never need to work again, And so this is 2018. And from there, I didn't make $1 in 2018, just to be upfront for anybody watching. 2019, I made $250 from a sponsored body armor post because I think they thought I was you.
Get out of here.
Yeah. No, I'm dead serious.
I didn't know that.
No, yeah. Yeah, you put me on your story, and they mistakenly messaged me.
Are you kidding?
They paid me $250 to take a picture of some water.
How the hell are we just now talking about this?
And so that's the only money I made in 2019. Okay. I had an email list. I was running ads to an email list, building that. And I had people reaching out like, hey man, do you have a program? Like, will you coach me? And I was like, no, I'm doing 75 hard, and I'm sending you a daily workout and a daily meal plan. Like, it's free.
Right.
Follow it. Right. Don't talk to me.
Right.
Like, I did not want to hear it. And so I still have the emails on that email. I can go back, people reaching out. Hey, like, is there a way you could coach me? Could we train at the gym together? And I didn't want anything to do it because I knew that you had an email-based training platform and you had a following. And I was like, that'll work. So I'm like, I'll just get, 10,000 people on it for free. And then eventually I'll just be like, hey, I've got this other thing. It's going to be paid. It's going to be $10 a month. And I would convert some of those people from free to paid. And that's what I was going to do. And like, that didn't work.
Yeah. It's a volume game and stuff.
Yeah. Converted 0 people. And so in that time, end of 2018, going into 2019, I also started the supplement or CBD business with a buddy from high school. We went to different high schools, but a kid that I knew that was, all about the gym, very into fitness, very, very smart, educated kid. We went in there, it was Vita new. And then, that kind of fizzled out, like with the payment processing business. And then I was working with you at this time. This is after the athlete search. So I kind of had all these things going on. Yeah. Was at the shop. And I was just like, all right, I'm just going to like keep doing more things. Like one of these is going to do really well.
Right.
And now I was selling supplements, making commission, getting paid. And I thought that was pretty cool at the time. Yeah. And I was like, all right, this is it.
Like, too.
Yeah. I'm like, we're we're moving in the right direction. And then, we got into EndoCoast, moved down here. Like it's been a wild, like to look back. This is something Maddie and I talk about because sometimes we're hard on ourselves because we kind of live in, I don't know if you've read the book, The Gap and the Gain.
I've not.
Ever. Long story short, living in the gap is like going through the day of like all the things you don't have. Like you're in the gap, essentially.
Okay.
Like focusing on what you don't have.
Yeah, like a scarcity
things
mindset.
You can't do.
Yeah.
Because you're not where you want to be.
Sure.
Versus
Constantly
being
feeling like a
appreciative
failure.
of where you're at and living in the gain and being happy with where you are.
So it's teaching you that mental switch, right?
We'll look at our, revenue for this year and be like, God, I thought we we're going to be further. Like we're taking steps back right now. She came on as a coach, we're switching to coaching all females. Like I'm not coaching as many people. Our revenue is down. Like there's so many things that you can just eat you up as a business owner, or even just a person. And it ate me up a lot more. And I had a job because I literally couldn't do anything about it. I made a fixed amount of money. And now that I have control over that, like I can make more if I sell more, coach more people. Like it's not like I can just grab the dial at any time, but more or less you can. Like you can market more, you can sell more, you can become a better coach, you can get smarter, take certifications, you can get better transformations, you can interview your clients, all that stuff. And so I will always be in the gap. And then I'll look back from where I was in 2018 and be like, I'm the version of me that I wanted to be. I might not be making $5 million a year like I thought I was going to be, which everybody thought was a stretch anyways, but I'm sure as hell happy that I started moving in this direction because like I love what I do.
And that's
Maddie
the
and I
real
love
growth
what
because
we
you
do.
could have got to the 5 million and still been miserable.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah. And so like just understanding, I mean, like we all have a limited time on this earth, like what we're going to do. Like we can't take anything with us. I pride myself on being a good person. I'd like to put my shopping cart away. I actually hurt myself yesterday putting another person's shopping cart away.
I did.
So I don't think in Montana the wheels lock, but it looks like the front right wheel, like when it gets far enough away in the parking lot, it will lock so it won't roll.
I haven't seen that here either.
Kind of almost jogging. I'm not jogging because my knee.
I see. So they
run my cart into the other one, push it 3 feet, and it just stops. And I just rammed my shin into it.
So doing
leg extensions today was rough.
Yeah, bad.
There's probably a bruise. I haven't looked at it. Had joggers on since.
Shaved your legs yet today?
No. Negative.
Go for it.
Only in the
use this
summer.
in air.
Wouldn't recommend it.
No.
Wouldn't recommend it.
You gotta use a trimmer.
Yeah.
It takes a long time though. It's like you're washing a bus. It's like a solid hour-long shower trying to trim those
Like
legs
you're washing a bus?
Yeah, it's about the same process, about the same amount of time. Hand washing it.
I'm getting cotton mouth laughing.
Good.
But I don't remember where we were at this point. But yeah.
What you've actually been doing is, and you've been doing almost this whole time, you're literally just talking through my notes. So this is fantastic. I want to talk more about you and Maddie's, your journey together, because you've already mentioned about the fact how supportive she has been.
Yeah, from the first day.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And then even at the same time, she starts her own journey. And what's unique is that you guys do this together. And I think, one, it's already rare that you do it together. I think it's even more rare that you've made it work. Because a lot of people that do try to make it work, they do fight. And I know you guys even were open about the amount you guys were fighting. But oftentimes, unfortunately, when those fights start, instead of people being willing to take a hard look at themselves and start to do the necessary work to heal from their wounds or their insecurities that make them not only a better person, but a person that's just easier to get along with and to be around. That's what makes it conducive for a healthy romantic relationship, friendship, working relationship. For me, I would say a huge, the most important part of that would be their faith. That's what transformed our marriage. You know, when I was so fixated, when I was drinking like I was, or fixated on my pain, my anger, and it wasn't until I really let all of that go and put God at the center of our marriage that I started to be a good husband. And, you know, it was something cool. I'll share this. It's a personal moment, but I'll share it with the hope that it helps other people, other couples, anyone that's going through a time of, it just feels like you can't get along. It feels like maybe, like for myself, I'd feel like I was just so damaged that I always was going to be angry, that I'd be better off being alone, because not even just like from a selfish standpoint, but for the other person's sake, that I just was broken. And it wasn't until God healed me that really changed. And I was sitting at my daughter's first dance recital, and I was sitting next to my mother-in-law, and the recital was getting ready to start. And I looked at her and I said, whether people believe in God or not, one thing they can't deny is that, and I can just say it firsthand, that when my wife and I put God at the center of our relationship and became the center of our marriage and the foundation that we build our relationship and our life around, we don't fight like we used to. It's inarguable. We just don't fight like we used to. And it's been so worth it. So worth it. So that being said, what has made it possible for you guys to make it work, working together the way you have?
Yeah, I touched on it, and it's kind of like I would, for lack of a better term, it maybe called a different version of openness. Like, to put it bluntly, when I drank, if Maddie would say something and I didn't like it, I would figure out a way to start an argument.
Sure. Then you get so far in that argument, you even forget what you were arguing about.
Like, if she would ask me a question, I feel like called out, and like, there's not a lot of people that like to be called out that I know. Most of us don't. Like, everybody, like, one thing I'll talk about with some of our male clients, some of them, I say some of them because some people I can't get to this point, is ego. And I'm not like the type of person that's like, leave your ego at the door. And I'm not judging people that say that. I've had people say that to me, and I'm like, you have bigger ego than probably anyone I know. I'm like, and you're going to say that, whatever. But like, I don't know if it was and somebody could correct me on these terms, if it was like my ego, but if, you know, something would get talked about, or I was in a bad mood, or she was in a bad mood, then I'd be in a bad mood, and then we'd talk, and sometimes I'd be so drunk I wouldn't even know how I started the argument.
But you weren't going to lose.
Or I wouldn't remember it the next day. Right. No, I wouldn't lose. My parents always told me I should have been a lawyer. My mom specifically, because I would argue with them. And so I would argue with Maddie, and she would shut down and not want to talk to me for a week. And I'd be like, no, let's solve it now.
Hash this out, right?
Yeah, it sucked. But like, I just was so like, go, like down that same path. Like, I couldn't stop. And I realized I was like, you know, I had thoughts, and her and I've talked about this since then. She's like, yeah, I had times where I thought, like, would I be better off not dating you? And I'm like, interesting you say that. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Surprise.
And like, we'll talk about this stuff now, like, cause you know, we talk about business.
You're in a healthy enough place now. You can talk.
We met over 8 years ago. We've been dating for 7.5. It'll be 8 this March.
Now you're engaged.
We've been engaged for over a year. For anybody asking when our wedding is, we kind of know, but it's going to be destination. Did I tell you where we're getting married? Cancun.
Wow.
2026.
Beautiful.
So we're going to go there January with her dad and stepmom, her stepbrothers, and then her sisters.
That'll be cool.
We're going to go 3 days early, scope out a resort, go to Tulum Jungle Gym, because never been there before. And then we're going to pick a resort, get married there, and then we'll have a reception back home.
We used to go there a lot. Used to stay at the Palace Resorts. They have a whole bunch of different ones, but I don't even know if that's what they're called anymore.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I can't remember. I'm letting Maddie coordinate it all. It's like her deal.
Not a bad idea.
So I don't care what color the flowers are, as long as she likes the color that they are. Like,
they're the right color.
Good with it. Yeah, I'm good with it. Yeah. We're getting married in Cancun. Cool. That's what we're doing. Awesome. But where's that right before that?
You were just talking about what like made it possible for you guys to start really getting along and getting together.
Yeah. So like, I'll be straight up. Me not drinking was huge.
Yeah.
Just having a clear mind, not having guilt or shame when I woke up, or anxiety from drinking, or who knows what I did the night before or what I said to someone.
Did you ever have a moment where you're able to set your pride aside and be honest with yourself to say, man, I am a huge hypocrite in the sense that if she did what I just did, her stuff would be on the doorstep or whatever. I mean, not even the extent of cheating, but like with drinking or how you were acting or whatever. Like for me, I've never cheated, I'm faithful, but there were nights when I was at the height of my drinking that I would just pass out on my buddy's couch or something and not come home. And I felt so terrible about the fact that night she didn't know what happened to me.
Yeah.
Was I cheating? Did something happen? Did I get hurt? What? And I just was like, if she did that, I wouldn't live that way. I wouldn't be with someone that did
totally.
that.
I've had,
And that's a big part of what got me to stop, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of things. I can't really pin it down to one thing. Like obviously having that wake up call in 2018. Also, like you're saying, the feeling that you get, like when you come home or something, I'm like, God, I argued again. Like I feel like an ass. I need to go apologize, but I didn't want to. And like, so that's one thing that I pride myself on now. I apologize quick and often. And
not some fake bullshit thing where it's like, I hate that if I'm on the golf course, because I don't really hang out with people that are this way, but you get paired up with some older guy or whatever, and they're like, how'd your wife let you get out here today? And you always say sorry first, and all this stuff. And it's just like, that's not real.
No,
I don't want to live that way. I'm sorry that you do, but that ain't me.
Yeah.
That's not how I'm ever going to live my life. That's a healthy precedent we set early on. I'm never going to be that way. And the person over time knows that fake apology and all, they know that. And it's not even going to, maybe it appeases them in the beginning, but over time that's going to run its course.
Yeah, people know. People know.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can, around people all the time since we've been alive, like you learn how to read people pretty well and if they're being genuine or not. Yeah. But yeah, us being open. So Maddie and I had like a pretty hard conversation in 2019 when I was like year and a half into this path of like trying to change, get my life on a different trajectory. And I felt like she wasn't on that path with me. And while she did support me, I also realized was like, hey, like I want you to be on this path with me, and I don't want it to be my path. I want it to be ours. And I mean, I just like told her, I was like, well, play it out long term. Like, let's say, if we break up, it doesn't matter right now. Yeah. But if we stay together is where it would matter. And that was my goal. I'm not dating her for fun. Like I was seeking out someone to like have a relationship with,
build a life with,
get married, probably have kids, God willing. So I was like, we have to have this conversation. So we're on the way back from, it was around like 4th of July or something. And I kind of had a conversation with her, and I just was like, hey, like, I just want to let you know, I want to talk to you. I've got some things that I want to bring up, like that are pretty serious. Like, I just want to kind of prepare you for that. And we talked about it, definitely made her cry. It was definitely,
it's uncomfortable.
Like, and it wasn't like in a finger pointing way. It was to help her to look inward. And I said, listen, like I watched what happened with my dad, and I realized that like, I don't want to live my life the way that I've been living it. I want to make changes. I want to start a business. I want to grow a business. I want to do these things. And I, want to ask if that's something you want to do with me. And if you do, I want us to get on that path together. And if not, that's okay. But and it wasn't like presented in an ultimatum way, because it took some time for her to get on that path. And she's talked about it a lot. With me, and then also shared a lot on social media, because one thing that we run into is couples, and we'll coach couples that are not on the same, it usually happens with like a guy signs up, 3 months later his wife will sign up, or his fiance or girlfriend or sign up. But we've had like husband and wife multiple times. We've coached like probably 50 couples, I bet, at this point. And it's interesting is like some of them are very on the same page, like, and then there's some that like kind of start going like this. And it's interesting to see, because I'll hear from, there was a period of time where I would coach the husband and the wife. And so I would hear from them both separately. And then sometimes there was like things like where they're kind of like pointing, like where one person's adherence was like kind of slipping, and the other person's was like getting really
Put
good.
You in a hard spot.
And, I have to remind people sometimes, I'm like, okay, I'm down to talk about whatever, but I'm also not
your marriage
a certified marriage counselor. And like, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I have been asked by clients multiple times, like, how do you and Maddie do it? And I'm like, I'll be straight up. First off, we don't have it all figured out. One thing that we do have is an open line of communication.
So you're willing to have that uncomfortable conversation you're alluding to in 2019, because I think a lot of people's fear
and like it was
avoidance of a hard conversation then builds to complacency and then ends up leading to a really bad place in their relationship because they would rather avoid having a hard conversation, the necessary conversation, and then they end up into sometimes a place, honestly, I don't want to say it's too late, but sometimes it's there. It's pretty close.
Timing is
it's even more of a difficult conversation at that place than if you just would have faced it before or had multiple along the way.
Well, and there's levels to it too, because like, there's a relationship of two people. There's a relationship of two people, and then also having, something like a dog. And it's like, who gets a dog? And then there's like the extreme of like, there's two people, a dog, and they have kids.
And then there's a relationship with themselves.
Yeah. And so like, when you're dating someone, you've been together for 6 months, if you break up, like, I mean, you can get over that. But like when you have like kids in the mix and like, there's so many other like factors at play. And so, I mean, it was like one of the hardest conversations to have. I've had some hard conversations with my dad, like not afraid to say that. And that's something that him and I talk about. Like, I mean, we have a great relationship. We talk almost every day. It's cool. And he always writes something nice and on my birthday cards. And it's nothing against anybody that's ever wrote me a birthday card, but like my dad writes cool shit on my birthday cards.
No one's
like,
going to
they're the best.
Match the level of your dad's birthday cards.
I've got all of them.
I love it.
And he actually doesn't write it on a card. He writes it on, like the money envelope. Because I'm like, he still gives me money for my birthday most of the time.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna go get like $200 or something, for birthday money, it's just on that because I'm very like I think birthday cards are stupid. They're a waste of money, and it's a bitch.
Especially now that they're $12.
Yeah,
$8 on the cheap end.
I had to put that aside because I understand that someone like Maddie appreciates a birthday card and flowers. Even though that I don't like those things, she does.
It was an act of going and picking out the card and taking that intention.
And I try to not steamroll her on that of like, no, my principle is like birthday cards are a waste of money. Like if I have kids, I might say, yeah, those are a waste of money. But if she wants one and feels good getting one, then I'm like, I'll buy the card.
Yeah, it's worth
that came from that openness of communication because I used to like be one way and I thought she should just like be a certain way. And finally I realized I'm like, well, that's not what's happening. So like I need to talk to her. And that was a hard conversation to have. Talking to my dad about things prior to and then afterwards of his incident was extremely hard. Another hard conversation was talking to you when we were doing business together. Like that was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had in my entire life.
I remember that.
And we're still friends. We're sitting here doing this, but like that shit is hard. Excuse the language, but it is like gut wrenching, like to the point where my anxiety was through the roof and it was coming from an unmade decision because I was afraid to tell you. And you were like the most relaxed person ever. But it just makes me think like how many people don't have these conversations that could be easy at one point. And the more time goes on, the worse you're going to feel. I mean, it's just interesting. Human behavior as a whole is like, why wouldn't you just have the conversation?
Yeah. We robotically self-sabotage a lot of us.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can almost like just thinking about those, it can almost bring back that feeling. And I mean, I don't know if you ever had a panic attack or anxiety attack before. I mean, I was trying everything. I went back after periods of trying to like, even like when I was doing stuff with you or when I was having this conversation with Maddie, I looked back a couple times of like, I might need to drink something to fall asleep. I'll have some NyQuil. Like I'm not sick, but I need something. And I was like always turning to this thing. And like, it was in here is where I needed to turn to. And it's people can call it cliche or whatever. Like I'll have a deep conversation with anyone because because like, I don't like small talk. I do not appreciate it. Holding the door for someone and them saying thanks is a different thing. But like, I don't like surface level conversations. I like people that I can talk to and like get deep with. But yeah, some of those conversations are extremely hard to have, but like they're so necessary because if you don't have them, like for instance, the couples that I've talked about that I've coached, and it's been a lot of people, obviously won't name any, one per se, but people have asked me, how do you guys do it? How do you guys do it? To answer your ultimate question is like, you need to have the initial conversation and develop openness. And if you don't have that, then you don't have anything.
That's right.
It can never be like it can never be the other way, in my opinion. Or
look how it stair-stepped for you too. In the beginning of your relationship, you set that healthy precedent that we're always going to tell the truth and we're not going to lie. But then even for yourself and her, you still had things that you had to heal from or work on personally to get to the point where then you already had the foundation of truth, which had to be there in the first place. Otherwise, you couldn't take this next step. Then when you got to this point where you're both ready to let go of your insecurities and be truly vulnerable with each other, now your ability to communicate your intent, your emotions, your feelings, your heart, even all of it, like the skill to be able to communicate is vital. Jordan Peterson talks about that a lot, because sometimes even if we're doing the right thing for the right reasons, but we don't communicate it to the person, it still could be misunderstood, even though we're trying to do the right thing. Maybe we're trying to be selfless. We're trying to do something for them, but they don't know that because we don't communicate it properly. So communication is huge. Communication without the action to follow it up is empty, but you still have to be able to communicate it. So I also want to give Maddie some props right now. She's hitting her stride. Yeah. It's awesome to see. The business side's cool, but dude, just the way she, like you have acknowledged her several times, the way she supported you, the way that she responded to that difficult conversation, and she didn't do it because it was like, oh, well, I guess this is what I got to do. And like, she like really stepped into thinking through what she wanted out of her life too. Yeah. And you guys aligned in that. And now, like I said, not only was she able to communicate her intent, her feelings, her desire, and they aligned with yours, now her action has followed it up. So it's not empty. And now seeing what it's producing, it's just, even just like the comments of the different people that I can see that you guys are working with that comment on her stuff. Like she took, Taylor and I have talked about it many times, especially Taylor, and because she really, really likes Maddie and respects her, especially for her ability to be vulnerable and show things online about herself that most people would not be willing to do. Everybody wants to show the comparison photos once they've reached their goal, but the people that are willing to like actually show where they're at before they get to their goal, like she was willing to do that, and that's rare. But right now you can see that it's paying off. Yeah. It's paying off in a big way, because all those people that were kind of on the sideline that related with her or whatever were watching this, and they might even been like, what is she doing? How is she doing that? And then now to see where she's at, they're like, okay, she's the real deal. Yeah, they're the real deal. And these are the people that we want to work with. And I'll vouch for you guys all day, every day. You guys are the real deal.
I appreciate that, man.
What do you think has been your anchor that's kept you authentic? Do you think it's your parents, the way they raised you? Do you like, what is it? What do you think that is? Why, especially if you went through a little season, I know we talked about like you saw your dad's health and that kind of stuff, and it got you to start making better decisions for yourself. But even when you came here, and some of the people I was running with or people you knew of at the time, or even just people on social that, you know, live a very crazy lifestyle of huge materialistic success, I've never seen you in any scenario like verbally run game with someone where you're trying to pitch or portray yourself and build yourself up to someone because you want them to see you in a certain way. Again, you're always genuine. What has kept you that way?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a tough question.
I know, but it's important.
I don't have a great answer to that. So many things, like, can you clarify? So you're saying,
like, for example, if you were around, I don't want to name any names, it's weird, but like one of my old friends or something that, you know, it's worth 10, 20 million bucks, and they got all kinds of crazy cars and crazy parties and crazy girls and everything around them, and we're around and we're talking to them.
It's a lot of most
people in that moment where I introduce them to them or we're around them doing something with them, they constantly are trying to like verbally build and puff themselves up. So that way they think that this person that they're so impressed with will be impressed with them. And they sort of got to get on their level and all that. You've never done that. You've always just been you, and people are impressed with you and drawn to you because of that. And that's what's so sad, is so many people think that by building themselves up and self-promoting and everything, that does work in some circles, but they're not the circles I want to be in. Yeah. And so if you're around someone who is solid and you actually respect them and want to be around them, you're way better off just being yourself, because if you got to put on this mask, like you were talking about earlier, this fake persona in order to be accepted by this other person, at some point that's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And so what is it that no matter what circle we're in, you're just you?
Yeah.
Because I didn't used to be that way. I am that way now, and I'm thankful for that because it's taken a lot of work to heal from my wounds and insecurities. And I'm still in that process, but I've seen you struggle with that far less than I have.
Yeah. I mean, like I've played that game for sure, in certain instances, and maybe probably more so when I was, I don't know, I like to call it my past life. Like before I was really, being authentic, when I was just kind of saying like, this is what my life is. Like, I'm going to stay here and do this thing for a job, and I'll be around whoever. And if I meet someone that like has something, I'll try and like impress them. Like, I don't know. I've seen it happen. I think it pisses me off, like, to watch it happen. I've definitely seen, I mean, like, from like high level example, I guess I'm starting to understand your question more. If you see,
you're not a fake it till you make it person.
Yeah, no, I don't feel good inside about that.
Why?
It's not that I can never, like, saying, I could never be angry at someone, or I could never be in a bad mood or dislike someone, but like, I'm very reluctant to like give a strong opinion, almost to a fault. Like if someone asks me a question, they're like, what fault? I mean, there's people that like will die defending their football team, that they don't know a single player and they'll never meet them.
It affects their life in no way.
Yeah.
But somehow
or same thing with like presidents or politics, and like
that's an identity thing again.
It rubs me the wrong way, and I'm just like, I am so unbothered by any of those things, like sports, politics, other things.
They're
like,
attaching to something they can live by.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna, if someone's like, you're an effing idiot because you voted for Trump or whatever, I'm just like, okay. Like, I'm not gonna convince you. Like, I'm gonna do me. I'm not gonna argue about it. I've been around what you're talking about before in certain settings where you think you know somebody, like one of your friends or someone maybe that you met more recently, and then you're around someone, for an example, like that has a lot of money or they have a business, and they're like totally different, and they're just kind of like trying to like, I don't know. I don't do that. Like, I did that in grade school, and I was like, I'll be blunt, I was not a popular kid. My brother was an athlete. I hung out with different kids, and I wasn't in the cool group. And I had a bunch of kids that were just absolute assholes to me in high school. And it's funny because I've coached multiple of them now. This isn't for me to be like, yeah, talking down to my coach, like,
I know.
I still like them. Yeah. I didn't like them back then. I thought they were assholes because they were, but I saw how they would be to other people. They're like what you're talking about. And I just was like, I could never do that to someone. Yeah. And I think it was, I don't want to say it was easy for me, but like, I wasn't a cool kid growing up. And so I kind of turned to like, okay, what can I do where I can just do my thing and be like unbothered. And like, I used to play games a lot. I used to ride my downhill bike. I didn't really like team sports. I was horrible at them. I didn't enjoy them. My brother would talk about how great football practice was, and I was like, dude, I just want to eat another pizza and play Call of Duty. And he's like, yep, I'm studying my plays. And I'm like, I haven't looked at my playbook once. Yeah. I'll look at it 10 minutes before the game. Like, that's probably when I played much football. But I remember how kids were like, I mean, now with social media, it's 10 times worse. I don't have kids, so I don't know exactly, but I have parents all the time saying like, oh, something happened with my kid and social media at school. Like, people will tear kids apart. Like, I got treated poorly in grade school. I got bullied. And eventually I kind of developed a mouth, and I would just fire back at kids, and that protected me a lot of the time. But yeah, I just don't like when people are like that. I don't know. Probably just because I don't like it. I'm like,
you're just not wired that way.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know, man. It's hopefully that answers your question.
It does.
It's hard.
It does. No, you're fine. It does.
I
put you on the spot. There's a couple of things I want to acknowledge. First, I talked about, and I read the definition of being genuine, and that's who you are. What you see is what you get. You don't run game. You don't fake it till you make it. But one of the most important parts of being genuine is leading by example. Like, you actually do what you say. You practice what you preach. And I just want to acknowledge, I'm sure you're aware of it, I know you wouldn't say it yourself, the ripple effect that you've had, not just in the people you coach or have worked with or whatever, but in some of the most important people's lives that are in, like your dad and now your future wife, because you took that step to live by example, to be authentic. Look where your dad's at. I mean, coming and working out with you, he's healthy. Yeah. Like your dad's in such an amazing place.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And I know, like, right now, you would not take all the credit. They had to do their part, and agreed. But still, the way you loved them well is a big reason why they decided to make the changes that they made. And they also watched you live out what you were telling them. You weren't a hypocrite by saying, hey, you guys need to change and make changes that I'm not willing to make for myself. I think it's hard too for people. Let's say someone has a bad drinking problem or something, and you're the type of person that you can have a couple drinks and you don't have an addictive personality, and the other person has an addictive personality, so they can't do that. They can't have a couple drinks. They need to have a whole bunch. Well, now you're the one looking at them and saying, you need to stop, but I have it under control, so I can do this. Well, most of the time that person that does have the addictive personality can't relate with you, and they're not going to really listen to what you have to say. And so when we actually step into living out what we're suggesting or talking to these people that we love about, it actually lands.
Yeah.
And you being genuine has now been in a ripple effect on some of the people you love most in your life. And that's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's incredible.
Yeah. This conversation, like you just talking, I haven't even said a word about it, makes my heart like beat.
Yeah.
I'm like, I get,
yeah,
and feels like intense right now.
Yeah.
But,
cause that's you.
I had this conversation with a lady last night.
Yeah.
And, she actually has a big Instagram. Her name's Calorie Deficit Queen. She's in Vince's group.
Okay.
But, she told me that her transformation, she lost 70 pounds.
Wow.
And, it was because her husband wanted to quit drinking. And she was like, you know what? Like you've tried this a few times before. Like, what if I quit drinking with you? She lost 70 pounds. She was on board with him, and it made it infinitely easier for him to take it to an extreme, like what you're talking about. Cause that is so common. The amount of people that I've talked to that are like, well, my wife likes still have wine, or my husband still wants to go out and have beer and cheeseburgers. But like, I'm trying to do this thing. And it's like, they can't learn how to moderate. I'm like, well, you can still go out with him when he does that. Mm-hmm. Well, it's so hard because he has a burger and beer, and I'm like, no, I'm like, you're telling yourself it's hard, and it's going to make it hard.
Right.
Like fundamentally, you can go and do the thing, and you could get, if you really love the taste of beer, and I tell guys this all the time because I'll order NA beers, and people are like, what's the effing point? I got asked this question this summer, and I said, the point is there's no alcohol. I'm not trying to get drunk. He's like, well, why would you even want it then? I was like,
because you do like the taste.
Because it's carbonated and I want it. Okay. It feels like I'm having a beer. Sometimes I like that feeling. Okay. You ever chew gum before? Why do you chew it? Like, what's the point?
Yeah. See, I'm on the other side of that where I won't drink it if there was no alcohol in there, because the whole point was the alcohol for me.
And so I will be honest, it's partly an experiment because I like to see the reactions when I order an NA beer.
Just playing with people.
So I'm kind of a little bit tactical on this.
A little antagonist.
I should probably write it off.
Mm-hmm.
This is part of my business expense.
I think that's a category with the IRS.
Side note, I think non-alcoholic options are going to become a big thing. I think they're going to be a massive market soon.
I agree. You're seeing it grow. I'm seeing Corona has them. I mean, you're seeing a lot of the different beers.
Athletic brewing. They're starting to get into CrossFit type of people promoting it.
Smart.
I don't know if you know who Eric Hinman is, but he promotes it's like Best Day Brewing, and then there's
and they're all non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
Wow. Because Michelob Ultra was that spin. It was still alcoholic, but it was like have it after your workout because it's so low cal. So now it's changing to the point where there's no alcohol at all.
Yeah. And so I get funny comments from that. It's interesting. Some people are like, oh, does that taste good? Can I try it? I'm like, just order one.
I think you mentioned the cheeseburger thing, but I think that's another one I want to hit on real quick is some people can still have the metabolism to eat a lot of bad stuff and still, I don't want to say they're healthy because they're not healthy, but they still look like they're in shape. They're not overly obese or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other person is jealous or upset because they even look at a cheeseburger or a milkshake and they gain 5 pounds. And so that's another thing where it's like, if you're that person that you are blessed with that type of metabolism and you're trying to call someone out or even do it in a nice way, you need to be able to have that part of that conversation to explain to that person, like, I understand that I do have a blessing and a gift, and to at least acknowledge that, because that person's not going to listen to what you have to say while you're sitting there drinking a shake, talking to them.
Yeah.
So, you know, on the other side of that too, some people have a really hard time gaining weight. Some people have a hard time losing weight. And depending on what your goals are in life, especially if you have fitness aspirations or athletic things, either way, like sometimes gaining weight real easily is a huge blessing for some people. For me, I have a hard time gaining weight. I've always had a hard time gaining weight. Like, me bulking is way harder than me cutting. Cutting's easy.
Partly because of the food choices you make and how you're doing it too.
True. But even to put on like a lot of size, I've gotten to the point now where I can eat a ton of clean food and put on good clean size. But even in the beginning, I still had to like dirty bulk to even just put on the size. And it took a lot of time for my body to be able to adapt, and my metabolism to be able to adapt. So I don't like it when someone looks at a skinny girl or a skinny guy and says, you need to eat a cheeseburger. Like, they might be struggling. Yeah, they might be struggling just as much as you are, or someone else that's obese. It just looks different for them.
Yeah.
It just looks different. We need to be able to have that understanding.
Or it's like when there's I can use Maddie for an example, because she's fine with me talking about it. Like, she, and my female clients tell me this all the time. They're like, I haven't worn shorts for 20 years. And I'm like, huh? Like, you won't wear shorts outside? They're like, yeah, too uncomfortable. Don't like how my legs look. And I'm like, holy hell. And you've been walking around like that for 20 years? Yeah. And they now have the confidence to do it. I'm like, what a massive win. Like, that's cool.
Yes.
That stuff's cool. Side-by-side photos are cool. The stuff that people write, say, or share with other people is cool. Like Maddie, like, she would never wear, same thing, shorts. She hadn't worn shorts since she was like 18 or something, like besides in our house, like around me.
Right.
It's kind of like the same concept of like, a girl doesn't want to walk outside without makeup on or something or whatever.
Yeah, just feel insecure. It's a different insecurity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And, I have guys tell me the same thing of like you ever go to the lake, and I'm assuming you've seen people like at the lake and everybody has their shirt off, and then there's like one guy that doesn't take his shirt off, and whether they're big or small, like I don't care. Yeah. But there's clearly a reason why they don't feel comfortable taking it off. And it's like, well, first off, probably nobody's judging you. That person's judging themselves. Yeah. Like, nobody else cares. Like, they really don't. I care if you actually want to lose weight and you want me.
That's why it pisses me off so bad that if that person does take their shirt off and someone does make a negative comment, I want to just, that makes me so mad.
But on the flip side, and like, and so like, I get comments when I've gone to the lake before, with my brother's family, and there's certain people around, or like some of my friends, and there's, other drunk people, and they'll be like, oh God, like, you still tracking your macros, or just like some chatter. And I'm like, I mean, I'm pretty unbothered by it. Like I said, with most things, I just, in one ear out the other, I'm like, I know enough about like the human psyche of like, you are projecting right now. This has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with you. It's like the comment didn't even happen.
I even had a wealthy older guy that not too long ago look at me and say, you're too smart to be a fitness guy.
That one would throw me for a loop.
What does that even mean? Like, are you kidding me right now? What an ignorant stereotype. That is ridiculous. Yeah. What does legacy mean to you? And what do you want yours to be? This is how we're going to wrap it up.
He'll also definitely cut the dead space here.
No, let's let it linger. Let it simmer.
What does legacy mean to me?
And what is legacy, and what do you want yours to be? What is like when someone says, I know that most of the time, typically people think like, just, I want to be remembered this way, or I made a bunch of money, or whatever that look. What does that mean to you? And what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah. I'll answer it carefully, because part of it, I've always thought in my head, like my definition of legacy was like, for instance, like my grandpa played for the Grizz, my dad did, my brother did. And it's like, my brother had the legacy number.
Quick shout out to your grandpa. I got to meet him too, and I love that guy. He was awesome. His property, everybody thinks Montana Yellowstone now. That's when we went to his house that day. That was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And I remember we went out in that old truck real quick. And in the first 30 seconds, dude jumps off the back of a 4-wheeler, takes a knife, castrates a cow, puts it in a bucket, and it was just on to the next one, man. That was like literally
Caught you off guard, huh?
You're
like, wait, what's happening?
A little bit.
And then a little spray.
Yeah. Little spray. Look.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is like, I've always thought of legacy as like, okay, it's this, you know, that's legacy with like football. And I'm like, okay, that's so cool. Like, but there's obviously a ton of families that's not the case. Like there's one kid that's going to play football and then the whole rest of that kid's bloodline might not ever play football because his son doesn't play and it'll continue on that way. Who knows? So the way I'm saying it is like, I try to not think of legacy in terms of like putting pressure on myself to like achieve X by this timeline. To me, like I want to make sure that I do my best and like whatever it takes, but you know, I don't need to hit like a certain revenue number. I'm really starting to find that out now. Like, cause I used to set goals that way and sometimes I would achieve them and I would feel so neutral, almost depressed. Like, okay, I did the thing, now what? And then also I've come up incredibly very short on like a revenue goal. And I'm just using that in terms of like what people think business success is, like the revenue number. Like we've had higher revenue years and lower revenue years, and we've had more expenses and less expenses, hiring stuff out, hiring sales calls out, hiring a videographer, and then doing everything ourselves. And we made more money and less total. So like, I really am working on trying to not think about it like that. And more so like, I want to make sure that I'm doing my best. Like if I have clients, like that they're actually people that want to be coached. So I'm vetting them properly. And when I do grow this thing, cause like it will become a much bigger business, and that is my goal, not for the money, but like the impact. Like I want to help people not be in the situation that I saw my dad go through. And the first person that I helped was myself not be in that situation. And then it started going to everyone else. And I had to do that work. So for me, like my legacy is going to be building the absolute best fitness and nutrition coaching business that I can build, whatever that is. You know, if we have 6 coaches or if we have 25 by the end of it, we'll call it. If it ever got to a point where we sold it, I don't know if that's the case. Like, I mean, I love what I do. I want to help people, but to preface, like, I want to help people that want to be helped. It's not a thing out of, this is something that I forgot to say earlier. Like when we coach people, these people that, yes, we do market. Yes, we make offers. Yes, we'll, you know, sometimes discount things or give people a trial of free coaching for Black Friday.
Sure. Because some people, it truly is a financial decision to give them the ability to.
We want to bring them into our world, and we want to coach people that have that openness and want to be helped and want to go through transformation. And it starts with changing your identity. Yeah. And so for me, legacy is like building that in the best way that we can to help as many people obviously create a profitable business, because part of that is the people that I bring on my team. I don't want them to be workhorses that get paid, you know, don't get paid well. I want, if a coach comes on our team, I want them to have that same vision. And so my mentor, and I'll shout him out, Cody McBroom, who has a big fitness and nutrition coaching company. I hired him to prep me for a photo shoot. I told you about this, right? And he talked about, like, he had some mentor clients. I was like, hey man, will you mentor me? And he was kind of like, I really don't do that. And so I bugged him about it for a little bit, and he finally agreed to it. And I thought we were going to learn about like all these like business and systems and SOPs and how to hire a coach. And like, we touched on that, but like everything that he had me go through, that he got guided through from, I think like a church group that he is in, that he joins online because everybody's in Texas. There's a former Navy SEAL that walked him through it, and he calls it a purpose charter. And so he had me build this, and we worked on it for like 6 weeks. Granted, I'm paying him like well over $1,000 a month for this mentorship. And I'm building a 8.5 by 11 document with words. And like, it took me a week or two to get over the fact of like, because that's why it was taking so long. Because I was like, yeah, I just want to get this thing done so I can look at your SOPs and see them. And I think he knew that. And so he's like, no, you need to think on this. Like, we're going to go back and forth. He helped me build this thing, like, of our vision, our mission, and everything on there. And I'll show it to you after this. But one of the things on there is, so like we have our principles and our values. And so extreme ownership, lead from the front, and be a go-giver is like what is on there.
Go Giver.
Yeah, Go Giver. There's actually a book called that, and some of these are emulated off of his, but he wouldn't show me his until I got mine completed.
That makes sense.
It was a smart decision, because I said,
that.
"Can I look at yours for an example?" He said, "No."
Yeah, right.
And like, he's very, I told him this when I filmed a testimonial for him. I was like, "You're intense." Like, it almost kind of scared me. Like, not scared me, but that's what I told him. I was like, "You're an intense guy." You know, and he's got tattoos and everything. You guys get along really good. But he is so blatantly clear on, first off, that he's a family guy. And like, when he says he's going to do something, and like, he's not going to stay late at his event. I was telling you about this the other day when I saw you 2 days ago. Yeah. Like, he left when the event was over, and he's like, "My wife's going to do this. I'm going to watch my daughter. I'm not staying and hanging out." He's like, there was zero compromise. He's like, "'Cause I know what my mission is. This is what I value, and this is my business, and this is my business mission and values. And I respect the hell out of that, like above everything else. I see the same thing in you." And it's, you know, it's gotten like more defined over the years. And it's like, those are the people I want to be around. Someone like him, like, he can move a room. The guy that spoke yesterday at the event, the guy that actually owned Human Communications Institute.
Oh, where you guys were at?
Michael Burnoff. He's got a book called Average Sucks. And it's not what you would think. I haven't read the book, but like, it's talking about how everybody has their own average. It's not anything to do with being better than everyone else or being above average.
Because of what most of those
it's talking about
titles are definitely.
You have your own average. I have my own average.
Okay.
Across the board.
Okay.
You have an average amount that you'll spend on groceries.
Right. It's not about comparison. Okay. I see what you're saying.
At all. It's all pointed inward. Cool. And I'm excited to read the book. Cool. So all of these things, I mean, that's why I like going to those events, because, you know, there is people that come in with flash that make millions of dollars a year, and like, I mean, you can be inspired. There's bits and pieces, there's tactics that you can take from that. But like, this was the most unsuspecting guy. And I got to be honest, I was like, I don't want to hear the guy that owns the building speak. And I didn't really think it was Human Communications Institute. I have no clue what they did. Didn't research him. I just like, it's some learning center. This dude can talk. And he was my favorite speaker out of anyone that came there. And it's funny, because every event I go to, there's like somebody that'll like get off the itinerary that like no shows or cancels or didn't get paid that they wanted or whatever. And then another speaker comes in, and that's exactly what happened. Vince had a coach that was supposed to speak and ended up not. And so this guy's like, "I'll speak." And I'm like, "Oh, listen to this dude. Best talk of the whole 2 days." Yeah.
Cool.
And so I'm stoked about it. But yeah, this purpose charter, man, it was the real deal. He walked me through this framework and made me build this thing for like, it was seriously like 6 or 7 weeks. I worked on this document to get crystal clear on what our vision, what our mission is. Because when he first asked me all these questions, I'm like, I want to hit, $1 million a year in revenue, and we have this many clients at this point. And he just goes, "Stop," like very abruptly. Good. He's like, "You're right. That's what it takes." He's like, "'Cause that's, like, we're above that." And he's like, "You're right on all those price points and all that stuff." He's like, "But that's not what we're doing here." He's like, "We're going to build this purpose charter, and I want you to tell me why, and don't show your math. Like, don't show your homework. That's not what this is." Like, he made me really look deep and figuring out like what our actual purpose and mission and vision is for our business. And like, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to build. So it's cool though.
It's great for you.
It was cool. So yeah, that's what legacy is.
I love it.
Is for me. It's just
you're having a ripple effect in all the lives of people you're working with.
Yeah.
But also like,
I just don't want to leave anything on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mean like, I got to squeeze every dollar and sell every product. Like, that's just so not the case. Like, I just like, I want to get great transformations. I want to coach people that want to be coached. When I have a team, I want them to have that vision, and that's going to be criteria for how I select a coach. And we have someone, a current client and a great friend of Maddie and I's, and she actually manages the vet that takes care of our dogs too. So we love her extra. Her name's Cassidy. About potentially coaching for our business. And like, I'm so excited about it, because it is someone that like I love and enjoy, and she's a great friend.
Yeah,
and
they're
like,
an extension of the way you and Maddie do things.
yeah, like she's great, and I know that she cares, like because she cares about us. We care about her. I've been coaching her since 2021. She took a small break for a little time in between, but like just a good person, someone that I want. Like the idea of building a team, like it scares me, but it also excites me a lot to bring someone like that. But also the thing about, you're talking about legacy, like if we're going to bring her on as a coach, I want to make sure that we can give her clients, that we can take care of her, that she's getting taken care of if she has a family. Like, I don't want someone that's just like, yeah, I'll pay you, a few $100 a month to like, I need like a coach to coach people that like I'm charging less. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to build like a legitimate business that helps people transform like inside and out and everything else that comes with that. So that's the goal, and that's what Maddie's doing. She's actually on I don't know, probably still on a call. Maybe she's done with it.
Maddie's just slanging while you're doing this with me.
She's got like 12 calls this weekend.
Awesome. That's awesome.
It's so cool.
I think I know as we relinquish our pride, as we do the necessary work, we're honest with ourselves, we start to work on making the changes in ourselves we want to see, healing, letting go of things that didn't serve us. We start to look at and be impressed by things differently. What we're attracted to is different than what used to impress us and attract us. And I'm seeing that in you. Even the conversation we had the first night you were here a few nights ago when we were standing outside my truck, what you were paying attention to, the things you were even really honing in on from some of the guys that you're around and what you like to see and what you respect. Even in that, again, you're leading by example because you're doing the same thing. And it's really cool to see. It's
appreciate
awesome
it, man.
to see. And your legacy is definitely something I'd bet on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for doing this with me today.
Yeah, this is fun.
I really appreciate it, man. I want to wrap with that. Before I go, pushupsforpoverty.org, if you go check that out. I think we have the .com too, but we are going to be setting an end date on that. So it's kind of been lingering. My buddy Josh, whose family actually, he's been on this show, but his family lives full-time in Africa, taking care of those children. He had just got back from Africa. It has been a crazy busy season for him. So we're putting our heads together this week, and we're going to put a date on it that we're going to wrap this thing up and start knocking out these push-ups and get this money over to these kids. We've raised, I think, like $3,000 so far, but I'd love to see, not from a performance standpoint, just more money equals more help to these kids. And even in that, that's something that I've been learning through this process, to not attach pressure or identity to my ability to even raise money for a nonprofit or to help someone. Like God doesn't need me to do that. God doesn't need me to do anything. I'm blessed to be a part of it. I'm honored and blessed by all the other people that have gotten a part of it. So if you want to go check that out, go to that website. I'll put the link in the description, and I'd be really honored and blessed if you decided to be a part of it as well. And if you just want to see me do 1,000 push-ups, then go drop that money. So that's another episode of Living LFTD with Brenton Ross. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, leave comments, feedback. Even if I put my email actually in the description now. So even if you have feedback that way, I'd love to see that as well. So go enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again, buddy. We'll see you in the next episode.